All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Dave, me, and Nick here. We're doing our 2022 preview and prediction for the Stanford Cardinal. Look at this coaching staff. They've been together a long time. Nick, David Shaw enters his 12th year as the lead man. 93-45 record overall. Offensive coordinator, Tavita Pritchard. He's been on the staff his entire coaching career, starting back in 2010. He was a quarterback before that, from 2006 to 2009. Took over the offensive play calling duties back in 2018. Then Lance Anderson, he's been on staff since 2007 himself. He was on Jim Harbaugh's original staff, coming over from San Diego. That's how he made it to the Power 5. Very impressive to keep this staff together this long, Nick. The program does not seem to be heading in the right direction. They went 4-2 in 2020, but it was a short year, very strange one for everyone. The past 3-4 years have not been very good for Stanford. And despite the longevity these guys have together, it might be time to start breaking things up.
It's interesting to see a program that keeps their staff so together like the Stanford Cardinal have. 12 seasons under David Shaw. The record's impressive when you look at it, 93-45, but over the last couple of seasons, that record has really taken its toll. They've been playing 3-9 ball most seasons. Of course, the COVID year has been an outlier where they won 4 games out of 6. But normally, they're playing now the last couple of seasons, 3-9, 4-8, and just haven't really been making the production that they want to. They've been missing out on bowl games regularly, and I don't really know exactly if David Shaw is the guy to continue for the next couple of years or so. It might have to make a change at some point. I think he has some more stability. I think he has probably at least 2 more seasons there, but if they do not go above 500 over the next 2 seasons, I could see Shaw out of a job very quickly.
And it all starts with the trenches. I'm going to say the same thing about the defense, but I'm going to start with the O-line and the running game. Just dominance in the trenches has completely disappeared. I remember Bryce Love was one of my projected breakout players in 2017. He ended up doing that, 2,100-plus yards, insane production. And then the running game disappeared overnight and has not returned since. 107 yards per game the next year, 123 yards per game or worse on the ground in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Even in the shortened year of 2020, they only had 132. Last year was an all-time low, though. Only 86 yards per game on the ground, 126th in college football. Led to their top 2 rushers, transferring in Nathaniel Pete and Austin Jones. This is the identity of the football team, and it is gone, which has led to immense regression. What's the biggest reason why this O-line and running game has just been blanketed the last couple of years?
The development of the O-line has been absolutely pathetic out west for the Stanford Cardinal. They really cannot seem to develop their talent. They brought in some high-level recruits they really expected a whole lot out of that just did not develop, did not do anything for this team. The blocking's not there, the hole's not there, and these running backs can't get anything going on the ground. They fall apart quickly. They get tackled in the backfield. They can't even get out of the backfield at all. It's been poor. The attempts are not there either. They haven't been rushing as much as they should, and like you said, 86.8 yards per game last year on the ground. It's just a pathetic number for this team. They should really be doing a whole lot better.
Like you said, the offensive line progression's been horrible, but they do get all 5 starters back. That helps establish some depth here. Should step up big this year, but that's something that we can't really count on considering how the past 4 years have went. Walter Rouse, Miles Hinton, these guys are solid at tackle, but they did not develop one bit. They weren't the only ones, though. Drake Nugent, Barrett Miller on the interior. These guys, they didn't really step up either. I mean, you hit it right on the head when you say the offensive line has not done much, and that's the whole identity of this football team. If you can't do work there, then that's going to lead to struggles. It's pretty clear with Stanford. Some teams, you have to dig and search to find the issues. This one, it's pretty easy to find, which I think that's pretty good in fixing your program. E.J. Smith, Emmitt Smith's son, clearly a good runner, 6 foot 210, fits the scheme. Casey Filkins, a little smaller at 5'11", 195. I mean, they should improve, especially, again, they get all 5 starters back up front. What are your expectations for this running game? I'd say 150 yards per game on the ground would be a solid mark, considering how the past few years have went.
I think 120 to 130 is probably more achievable for this team. I just don't know if I really trust this offensive line to continue to develop. I do love how they return all their starters. I think that's solid. I think that's solid to form that continuity and return the starters. I think that's a good idea to have. I think Smith's a solid back. Of course, his father was a very, very successful back in the NFL. So he has that sort of bloodline legacy there. I think they have potential to step up this year. I definitely think they'll eclipse 100 yards per game. I mean, they have to. If they don't, that'd be absolutely pathetic. But the offensive line is just really disappointing across the board. The guys in the interior especially as well. I expect better things out of Miller, Nugent, and Bragg, and the 3 of them there in the interior really haven't done much for me. I hope they can step up this year.
We get 10 total starters back on offense. The only departure is those guys that are running back. Very excited for the passing game, though. Tanner McKee wasn't as strong over the back half of the year. Really, the final month and a half, it's pretty rough for him, but he was elite early on in the season. 11 touchdowns, no picks over the first 5, 200-plus yards in all 4 starts, 6'6", 225, so great size, showcased impressive arm talent, solid command through the air, sees the field well. He's a legit NFL draft prospect in my eyes for 2023, Nick.
Yeah, I think McNeely is definitely a guy that should be getting some more traction in the NFL draft conversation. Last year, 65.4% completion percentage, 2,300 yards through the air, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I like his accuracy. I like his, pocket composure. I think he's also got a solid head on. I think he can run a little bit as well too. I like the potential to pick up some yards on the ground if necessary. He didn't really show that, but I think the potential is there for it. Solid quarterback. I like him in the pocket. I think he has the accuracy. I think he has the arm strength. And his receiving core, he returns a lot of his starters, so I think that he can only naturally improve.
Right, they get back everyone in the passing game. Tight end Benjamin Yurcik, 6'5", 235, another strong Cardinal tight end. So at least they're still developing in that position. 658 yards, 3 scored last year. Elijah Higgins, a team-high 45 receptions for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Bryson Tremaine, he was off to a hot start. 19 grabs for 240 yards and a team-high 5 touchdowns despite being hurt. It's not very impressive to only play 5 games and have 5 touchdowns, and that's still the team high for the year. 6'4", 207, nice contested catch guy. I like him in the red zone. Michael Wilson, 6'2", 210. He only played 4 games himself. Some big body pass catchers here. These guys are red zone nightmares. John Humphreys, he was also a reliable contributor. He got hurt after 6 games. So obviously health did not do these guys any favors, but fresh start this season. Quite deep group of pass catchers this year. This passing game should be among the Pac-12's best. Nick, Bryce Farrell, another veteran as well. I like what they have here.
Certainly this team was banged up last year. I think Yurcik's a solid tight end. I love the size he has, 15.3 yards per catch last year, 3 touchdowns. He can also block pretty well as well. Higgins, super talented guy, underrated, 500 yards in the air last year, 11.1 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns. I love to see what Higgins can do this year. I love this wide receiving core. I love McNee. I think this offense could definitely be airing it out a lot this year.
Looking at the defense, there's only 4 starters back on this unit. Like I said, for the offense, dominance in the trenches has been non-existent. Back in 2018 and 19, they were still top 50 against the run, so they didn't fall off as bad, but the writing was on the wall to catch up to the offensive side of the ball, and they did. 127th in run defense last year. This was a big issue coming into last year, and that was the lack of depth on the D-line. It's clear they got hammered. Now they lose all 4 starters after having no depth. That's a strange sentence to stay, especially for a team like Stanford. Tobin Phillips, 6'4", 295, didn't play much last year. He's going to slide into the interior D-line. 2 redshirt freshmen in Anthony Franklin, Zach Bucky. That's all I see on my depth chart, Nick, at defensive tackle. Both those guys are under 270 pounds, so they're expected to produce, despite not filling out their frames yet because they haven't had the time to. I'm very worried about this D-line, as I was last year, but I think they're going to get even worse this year, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, the interior defensive line has no depth here. Zach Buckley, a redshirt freshman, expected to take a step forward this year. Tobin Phillips as well. He needs to have a step up. He did not really perform to the level that they would hope he would. He hasn't quite lived up to expectations. Only played in 4 games last year. He's listed as number 1 starter on the defensive tackle for me. This defensive line is poor across the board. I just don't really see a production here. They can't get to the quarterback. They were unable to get to the quarterback. It looks like they'll be leaning on some redshirt freshmen and some true freshmen as well this year, which is really concerning.
David Bailey is one of them, 77th ranked recruit. He's one of my top 10 impact true freshmen for this upcoming season. Not because of how talented he is so much, but more so because they need him. Even though he is a heck of an athlete, he's explosive. He can make plays in coverage and space. I think he's going to be the most utilized true freshman in college football on the defensive side of the ball this year because they really need him that bad. Stephon Heron anchors down the other side. He had 3 sacks last year. Enters his 4th year. So they do have some experience, which is good for them. What do you expect from David Bailey this year, who's going to be leaned on a lot?
Right, you need David Bailey to step up. He has probably some of the most pressure on him of any true freshman getting thrown into a starting role here. Big things are expected out of Bailey. He was considering going to USC potentially. It was a lot of Pac-12 programs recruiting him. Very talented edge rusher. I like the potential he has, but I just don't know if he can be able to produce from day one in Stanford for this team. He has to go out there and light it up day one because they just don't have the talent anywhere else on the field or the depth. I think he has the potential to do it. I do like him as a potential impact true freshman. I think I could see him, get a couple sacks, get it early comfortable, but it's a tough thing to fill that role, and I really wouldn't want to have that pressure on me.
I think he's up for the challenge, though, because I think he was well aware of what he was getting himself into, and I think, a lot of guys like that. They want to get in there and make an impact right away, so I'm very excited to see what he can do. Luckily for this linebacking core, these guys, I like this group. It's a pretty optimistic group here. Lavani Demai, same high, 88 tackles last year. He's 6'2", 247. Ricky Maiza, right behind him with 68 stops last year. They need to be much better, and the lack of depth in front of them on the D-line will lead to these guys using the shoulders on every single play this year. It seems like they're going to get really beat up. Thankfully for them, though, depth on the 2 deep is pretty respectable. You got a senior in Jacob Magnum Farrar, 41 tackles last year. Justin Sinclair enters his 4th year at the program. He had 31 tackles himself. So I'm very optimistic about this linebacking core. And if they didn't have depth here, they would really be on some hurt. But I think this right here, it's pretty lucky for Stanford and Shaw in this group.
I like Dumani. I think he's a super talented linebacker. 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks last year. And I think Meza is also solid, 6.5 tackles for loss, plus a half a sack last year, 7 total tackles for Meza. 2 linebackers are solid. I do like the potential they have there. I think those guys are solid linebackers. I think the front seven gets better as you go back. I think the linebacking core is solid, decent depth there. But I'm concerned about the front seven in general across the board. I just don't know if they're able to stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say otherwise with the defensive line looking how it is, but these guys are going to be leaned on immensely, and maybe they can really step up and carry the load. Secondary is quite sound, in my opinion. Of course, they didn't get us tested as much as other teams in the FBS. They only had 6 interceptions. 3 came over the first 3 games, and then they had 2 over the final 2 games. So throughout the core of the season, the secondary did not make many plays. But I like what they have at safety. They add Pat Fields from Oklahoma, return Kendall Williamson as well. He's been around a long time. Kai Blue Kelly, one of the Pac-12's best corners, 2 picks, 10 pass breakups last year, 6'1", 185 stature, should emerge as a top draft pick, maybe a day 1 or day 2 guy if he builds off of last year. I'm confident in the linebackers in the secondary. D-line, of course, is a big problem. Leaning on true freshmen that would be the impact performer is not ideal. But the veterans in the back end, these guys, I think they're going to be up for the challenge a little bit to try and get this defense over the hump.
I like this secondary a lot. I think Kai Blue Kelly could be an early second round kind of guy, late first round kind of guy in the NFL draft. 2 interceptions last year, 11 pass breakups, plus a forcible and a fumble recovery, 58 total tackles for him. I like Blue Kelly a lot. Pat Fields comes in as well. I love the experience he has from Oklahoma. Solid grad transfer. I like that experience. Leadership in the locker room. This is a solid secondary.
Look at the schedule preview and prediction. They play USC in week 2. Every year this is on, this is an early week 2 game. It's on primetime ABC this year. It might be a beatdown for Lincoln Riley and crew because they're going to be looking to make a splash with this opportunity playing on primetime television. Stanford, though, might cause some issues there. I think that might be a closer game than people think. Week 3 bye week. Who wants a week off that early, Nick? It's really a disadvantage, especially for this team here that's doing that. That does them no favors, So tough non-conference altogether. BYU, Notre Dame, 2 CFP contenders. That's not great. Have them beating Arizona State and UCLA because of the passing offense. I think these teams also have the running attacks, though, that could dominate Stanford. But late October, it's hard to anticipate what happens on the D-line. That's the biggest key with this football team. Of course, we expect poor things from them. I think they'll win those games. Very intriguing offense, encouraging secondary, as is David Bailey. But for the most part, I don't see much with this team this year. 5-7, and the wins they have, I have them winning. That's I'm not very optimistic about.
Yeah, week 3 bye is absolutely brutal for a college football program, especially a Power 5 program like that. That's a tough thing to get. This is a tough schedule. They don't get any gimmies with the non-conference outside of Colgate. I mean, playing Notre Dame and BYU at Notre Dame, traveling to South Bend, that's going to be a beatdown in Notre Dame for sure. BYU is super talented Cougar roster. I know you touched on them earlier in the preview off-season. They're super talented roster top to bottom. This is a tough year for Stanford. They're going to be right around that 4-5 win mark, maybe 6. They get lucky and sneak into a bowl game. But this team is really not talented on defense, especially on the front 7. And the offensive line is poor. It's in the trenches for this team. Both sides of the ball, the trenches are very pathetic. And I just worry that teams can get outpaced by a lot of these teams and they could find themselves in serious trouble.
The potential is certainly there on the line, though, so I didn't want to make that note. D-line, not so much, but I do have them winning at Washington September 24th because that secondary is very depleted. I think the offense will have a field day there, but again, that's a very tough matchup. The Washington front 7 is pretty solid, so that could go either way. So 5-7 for me. I wouldn't be shocked if they competed for the conference crown because David Shaw is that good of a head coach. Also would not be shocked if they only won 2 games because there's some tough matchups on here for this football team. Overall, how many wins do you see this team getting, Nick?
For me, I think 4 is definitely where they should get. They should get at least 4 of ease, but 5, 6, maybe they push 6. They flip one of those games at Cal, potentially at home to Oregon State. They could flip. I'm going to go 6 wins. I say they'll flip the game at Cal, so they'll go 6-6.
Yeah, that'd be solid. I'd love to see this team in a bowl game. It'd be good for David Shaw to cool down his seat as well. So as always, Nick, I appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.